So in today's tutorial we are going to build blog application but with comments. So our application will give the visitors the ability to post a comment for each blog post. So let's get started. Let's go to the desktop, raise new blog with comments, and then let's cd to blog with comments, and then item dot. All right. So if you watched my tutorial where I'm building the blog application with Ruby on Rails, I basically show in this tutorial how to set up a blog application in Rails completely on your own. So without any comments whatsoever, we are setting up the paths and the resources and things like that. In this tutorial we will use a comment called scaffold. Now what scaffold does, it creates basically the whole CRUD application. So basically exactly what we did in the blog tutorial with just one comment. Now you may ask, why haven't I showed you this before? The reason for that is you have to understand Rails without scaffold. So scaffold is really helpful, but oftentimes you don't really want to use it because oftentimes you don't really want the full CRUD paths for your controller. Oftentimes you only want to create something or destroy something. You don't need a full CRUD for this. So in this case it oftentimes makes sense to set up things on your own. Your project is then less bloated and much more easier to understand for others as well. So let's get started. Let's raise G scaffold block, and then title, string, and then content, text. And when we hit enter, you will see it will create exactly what we did in the first tutorial. It will set up the routes. So if we go to routes RB, you will notice that routes RB, we have now here the resources set up. If we go to app controllers, you will notice that we have now a blocks controller. Inside views we have the blocks folder with all the different HTML files, and inside blocks controller you see all the different methods are set it up, and the update method and the create method and things like that, and even a before action. And we have also here the block params to confirm what the user can upload and whatnot. So again, and we also have the block RB. So scaffold basically simply set it up a full working application. Now because we have some kind of data, we have to migrate it to make this work. So when we go to the DB schema file, you see we have now an active record with a table of blocks, title, content, and if we type in race as, you will see, and actually before we go to localhost 3000, let's go to routes RB and let's set up the route to the blocks index. So blocks route index, and if we go to localhost 3000, we will have the ability to post blocks. So new block, first block. This is awesome. Create block. So here we are. We have here our first blog post with the content, and you see the paths are set up. We have the edit button, the back button, we have a new blog button, we can destroy it, edit it, show it. So again, the full CRUD paths are set up completely automatically. That's the reason why Rails was and is still to this day so popular, because as you can see, you can set up the basics of your application with just one single line of code, which is really amazing. Now there are other frameworks that are really good as well and also come really close to the Rails, but Rails has the only downside in Rails is actually to understand what's going on in Rails, because there's so much going on under the hood and in the background to make things like that possible, to run one single comment and have a full working application with that. But once you have the idea of how arrays works, and by the way, that's the reason why I'm doing these tutorials, to give you an idea how things are working exactly in arrays. Once you have that down, it's probably the fastest framework out there. You can prototype and you can develop startups in just a few weeks in full production. So sometimes the magic in arrays is a little bit hard to understand, but again, sometimes I think it's really worth understanding it because it's really fast once you have it. Okay, so enough with that. Let's talk about the comments. So currently we don't have a comment controller, nothing, right? So when we go to the show page, we want, of course, when the server is running, the ability to have a comment form where a visitor can comment on the blog post. Okay, so all right, so let's shut down the server. Raise G model comments, comment actually, so singular, and then let's call our data comment, and then simply make it a string. Let's hit enter. If we go to this the DB folder, migrate, you see we have now here our table for our migration file. So comments do string and then the timestamps. And currently in schema we don't have a comment, so raise DB migrate to confirm this, and you see we have now here the table comments with a string comment and then the timestamps there. All right. So the next thing we need to do is to associate the comment with the block, because each block should have comments that are associated with the blog post. So if we go, for example, to the first blog post, we want only display the comments for the first blog post. And if we go to the second blog post, we only want to show the comments for the second blog post. So we need to create an association. So normally we could create the association when we create the comments table. There's also another way, and I choose to show you it this way because oftentimes when you're developing inside arrays, and especially when you are when your application is growing, at some point you maybe want to add some kind of attributes to your tables. So how do you do that in arrays, right? So you cannot go simply to the schema file and type in, for example, t-string and then title. This won't work. It will give you an error because you cannot manipulate or change the active record inside schema. You have, when you want to make changes to your database inside arrays, use always the terminal. And before you can make changes, you always have to use arrays db migrate. So whatever is inside your migration folder will be added to your schema file then. So we have an existing table comments, a table called comments, and we want an association with the blocks table. So we will add an ID that will have the ID of each blog post. So for example, when we are on the blog post of number 1, we want to store this ID to the comment table. So let's do this. We will create a reference, and we can do this in arrays by typing in raise g migration and then add block ID to comments, and make sure to spell this exactly like I did. So block ID with the uppercases to comments, singular, plural at the end. And then we need to tell what kind of table or what kind of attribute we want to add. In this case, we want to create a reference, so block references, and hit enter. And now inside the migrate folder, you see we have add block ID to comments and add reference comments block foreign key true. So we want to add a reference to the comments table that is called block. Now when we migrate this by typing raise db migrate and go to the schema file, you will see that we have now here inside an integer with the block ID. And so here we can always add the block ID to it, and when we want to display later on the comments, we can use the block ID to have the association with the blocks. Right now, if we go to the race console and type in b equals block dot last to get the last blog post, and type in b comments, you will see we have an undefined method comments. Now to make this work, we have to create the association inside the model. So first off, let's go to comment RB, and here we have to type in belongs to blocks, or block actually. Now normally Race will add this automatically when you create your first migration, but whenever you are creating or adding something, some attributes or associations to your existing model, you have to make sure to add this on your own. So we have to do this on our own manually. Normally this will be automatically added. However, at the block RB model, we always have to do it on our own. So we have to do this manually by typing has many and then comments. So each blog post has many comments, and a comment belongs to a block. Right, so if we type in now b comments, and actually we have to rerun this, so raise c, and then b equals block.last, and then b comments, you will see we get now an empty association active record, which means there is some kind of association, but we haven't created anything. And now it's time to create the form for this. So this is a part, or this whole thing will look a little bit weird to you. A reason for that is because we have to do this in the race way. However, again, it's not really that complicated, and I will explain what we're doing here exactly. So inside show, we want to add a form, right? Because for each blog post, we want to have here the input field so that we can write a comment, and we also want to render on the show page all the comments for the blog post. We don't want to render the comments on the index page, for example, right? So there are many ways of doing this inside Race. However, the way I'm showing you is probably the official way. I think the official documentation shows a similar way of achieving this. So let's go. Let's get started. The first thing is we want to create a render, and the first thing we need to do is to create a controller. Right now we don't have a comments controller. So exit raise g controller comments, and that's it. Now we can run our server again, and you see we have now here the empty comments folder inside views, and then here the comments controller. All right, now inside show we want to render comments for. Okay, and inside comments we need to create the file, so underscore form html.erb. So we are pointing in show HTML with render comments form to the folder comments and then to the file form. So make sure to have the underscore in front of it, otherwise Race won't recognize this as an HTML file that you can render inside other HTML files. So whenever you want to access some kind of file that belongs to another controller, you have to use the underscore to be able to access this. Okay, so inside form, let's create a form for, and then we want a block variable and also a comment variable. Then let's assign an f variable to access the form, and then end tag. And here we want first the label comment. So again, comment is coming from the schema file where we defined our comment, and we have a string called comment. So this is exactly what we are pointing to here. And then we want an f text field comment, and then also a submit button, so F submit, and let's give it a title of add a comment. Okay, when we refresh our application, make sure the server is running. It is running, so let's go to localhost 3000 and let's click on the first blog post, and we will get an error. And the reason for that is because this is currently empty, so we are pointing to nothing. Add block is not defined, add comment is not defined. Remember, we are inside the comments folder, so we point to the comments controller. Now if we click on the comments controller, it's empty, even though we are rendering from the show page, which is inside the blocks controller. We are not going to the blocks controller. What Race is doing, it goes when we are rendering here the comments form, and we are pointing inside the comments the form to block and add comment. It goes automatically to the comments controller, which is currently empty, which is why we get the error here. So let's add a method, def create, and here add. And then we want to get first of the block, we want to define what add block means. So block find params and then block underscore ID. And then add comments is simply add equals add block and then comments and then create. Now remember, we have to tell Race what the user can upload. So down here, let's make a private part and then a def method. Actually, let's call it comment params. And down here, we want to add, we want to get the params, require comment, and then permit comment. So again, we are pointing to schema RB that the user can only access and post the string comment. So this is for security reasons. Again, in my tutorial where we built the block application, I explained this more into detail. But again, Race wants from you confirmation what the user can upload. Whenever you are creating something, you have to add the params. Okay, so we simply add here the comment params from the bottom. So we are adding this here to here. So whenever we are creating a comment, we use the comment params and make sure that the user can only add a comment. And once that's done, let's make an if add comment save redirect to root path, and make sure it's not comments but comment. And let's refresh this and let's see what we get. And we will still get an error, I think, and the reason for that is because we have to define inside our blocks controller what add block means. The reason for that is because we are rendering the form inside show HTML, our ERB, which is inside the blocks folder. We have to tell Race where to go. So inside blocks controller, here inside show, let's make add comment equal to comment.new. And when we hit refresh, this should finally work. And no, so seems like I made a typo. So let's actually see what the problem is. Unexpected syntax. So add comment form 4. This looks actually good to me. Maybe I have to remove these here. So let's try that out one more time. Right. End tag, we have the end tag, do f comments. So syntax error number 2. Let's see if what's happening if I type in add block, add comment. I mean, normally it should work though, like it didn't the first time. So I'm not sure why Race is telling me this. So let's see. So this is actually a good way to see how to fix problems like that, because web development is at the end all about fixing problems. So I will also post this here. I will not cut it because I think it's really good actually to see how to fix problems like that instead of cutting it and showing you a super smooth development process. That's maybe easier for you to follow along, but gives you maybe also a false idea of how things are working inside web development, because oftentimes you spend your time getting an idea of what's going on. Form 4 race. Let's simply Google this here, Form 4, and okay, so I already got the idea what's wrong here. I forgot to set up the path. Right now we don't have a path for comment, right? So if we go to routes RB, we only have resources for the blocks, and we need a nested resource. So again, if you're wondering what this means, I explained this in my to-do app tutorial more in detail. So resources, and then we have a comment or comments, and then add. And when I refresh now the application, it should work without a problem. So let's delete this here, refresh, and no, let's make sure the form 4 that we put it again in the, that we add here the syntax again. And it seems that still why is Race expecting another show HTML render comments form. Right, underscore is there, HTML, and inside here, well, let's blocks, comment new, add comment new, and inside comments controller add block find, block ID, right? And then I got the problem. I forgot here the and tag, because we are making an if statement. But actually we should get then the error inside the controller, but we are getting an error inside the form. So not sure if this will fix the problem. No. Maybe if we restart the server. Seems like something is really off here. Show, like, what is our terminal saying? Expecting and. I have the and tag here, so I'm not quite sure why Race is telling me that I have syntax error number 2 and then 13 blocks form unexpected and keyword. But why? I'm saying, let's actually compare this to the form from the scaffold. So let's see what we got here, because I'm pretty sure I don't do here a mistake. So they use form with, which is coming from Race 5.1, but I don't want to use this. You can still use form 4, and then F submit, and then F text field, comment, F label. Like, I don't know. Let's see what happens if I type in add block. So still we get the error. So there's something wrong with the file. Let's delete this for now. Delete, move to trash, new file. Again, forum html.erb, forum for again add block, add comment do f to assign the variable, and then simply end. And then here we have to get the f label comment. Let's see if this is working. So refresh. There we go. So again, there was something wrong with the file. I think maybe because I tried something earlier with another project and somehow Atom spinned up the old file. I don't know, but now it's working. And as you can see, you can compare it. If you go back a few seconds, it's basically the exact same form. So like I said, it was a little bit, I couldn't really find the error. So again, I will upload this as well, the part, so that you can see, add a comment, how to approach things like that. Maybe this will help you along the way. So as you can see, this is not working. Where's our button? Add a comment as submit. I forget. Oh, okay. I forget here the equal sign. So there we go. Okay. So now we have add block and we have add comment. So add block and add comment is defined inside the comments controller. Now raise always goes first to the new method. We don't have a new method inside the comments controller, and we don't need one because we don't have a new file here. We want to render the comments form inside blocks show HTML. Therefore, because we are basically initializing this, we have to define this in our blocks controller, because raise always goes from the file in HTML to the defined controller. So here inside the blocks controller, it goes to the show method because we're inside the show file. And here we simply say add comment means comment.new. And raise will know then, okay, we want to create something with the comment model, and then it goes automatically to the comments controller, to the def create method. And inside here we are defining the block.find params block ID, which is coming from the show file. It is stored because we are initializing this from the show file, which is inside blocks, the blocks folder. And then we simply say add comment, which means block comments create. So here we say, hey, we want to create a model, a data for block and add comment, and we define these two variables inside the comments controller. So first we find the block, and then we say the comment belongs to this block here. So add block comment, and then we want to create a new comment for this block. Okay, so there we get the association then. So raise will automatically then add this block ID to the schema here, where we have the integer block ID. And then we say simply, if this comment gets saved, redirect to root path. So when we go to blocks 1 here and type a very cool blog post whatsoever, click on add comment, go to show. There was something submitted, however we don't see anything. So let's go to raise C. We don't see the result because we are not looping through. So let's go to the raise console. B equals to block.last, and then B comments, and you will see we have one comment now. So this is working just fine. The next thing we want to do is to show the comments for each blog post on the show page. So here we have to go to the, let's close this here first. Let's go to views show, and then here we want to render comments, and then comment. And here inside comments we create a new file, underscore comment HTML ERP. And here we simply make a loop. So add comments each to C to assign a variable, and then an end tag. And then here we access the comment by simply typing C comment. That's it. Now, because we are again initializing this render from the show file, which is inside blocks, we have to define what add comments is inside the blocks controller. So inside here show, we simply say add comments means the block comments. And we don't have to define add block, I think, because we are already setting it up at set block here in the before action. So scaffold did this for us already. So here we have add block, block find, params ID, and then it uses the before action. So basically the dry idea of race. So if you're wondering what dry means, it means don't repeat yourself. So let's refresh the page and make sure to go out of the console and that the server is running. And by the way, you can also hold down Command and T and then open up the race console or whatsoever and let the server still be running. However, make sure when you are installing a new gem or adding some kind of databases to restart the server because otherwise you will probably have some kind of issues along the way. Okay, so you can see here's our first blog post and the comment, and there's an array display. So let's remove here the equal sign at the loop, and there we go. So we have now a very cool blog post. So this is working just fine. Now the next thing we need to do, or at least something that I want to do, is to add the ability to delete the comments. So for this we want to create a link to delete and then block comment path. And here we want first assign the block ID and then the ID of the comment. And then we want to get the method delete. And now, because we're inside the comment HTML file, we have to go to the comments controller, dev destroy. Let's create the method here, and then we want to get first the block find params block ID, and then we want to get the comment. So comment find params ID, and then simply comment destroy. Now we only want to get the block ID because we want to redirect to add block, so that when we are deleting the comment, we get the redirected exactly to the block post, and we are injecting the ID here. So we say c.block ID is the first ID, and we have the block ID stored for each comment because each comment is associated with an block post, and therefore we can get access to the ID. And here we simply get the ID from each comment, and inside comments destroy we say, hey, add block means get the ID that is stored inside the comment, and then we simply destroy the comment and want to redirect to the add block. So if we don't use the redirect add block here, we could also remove here the add block because we don't really need it. But again, now there are other ways in doing that, doing the redirect to the blog post as well, but I think this is the most clearest and simplest solution. So let's try that out. Let's refresh the application and let's see if this is working. So it seems like it's a little bit loading here. All right, so we got the delete button. Let's click on that, and there we go. Great whatsoever, and very cool whatsoever. And let's click on delete, and there we go. Now you notice when we go back and create a new comment and click on add comment, we get redirected to the root path. So let's change this as well. So here, if add comment save redirect root path, let's change this to add block. Hit refresh, and let's add another comment here, and there we go. So we get redirected to the blog post. Okay, now inside the underscore comment here, let's add for each comment a p tag. So this will look then probably a little bit better. Yeah. And then let's add the link to delete as well inside there. All right, so this looks much better to me. Okay, so we just implemented the ability to post comments for each blog post. So let's add another blog post, another blog whatsoever, doesn't matter, and agree, add comment, and there we go. So agree, and on the first blog post we have to complete different comments. So each comment is associated with one blog post, and we can confirm this inside the raise console. So raise C, and if we type in b.blog.last and then b comments, you see we have now the comment ID of 6 and also comment agree. And if I type in blog.b.equals blog.first and then b comments, you will see we have different comments. So the first one has the ID of 3 and then the ID of 5 and so on. So this is working just fine. We are more or less finished. Now there's one thing left, and that is the question: how do we add the ability to store a comment to a user? Now this is something we will do as well. So let's go quickly here inside our text editor and let's close this here. And then inside gam file, let's add, as always, gam device, and then simply bundle install. So whenever you're adding something to the gam file, always make sure to run bundle install. So Raise will install all the gams that you have added, and then raise g device install. And then once this finished, we have to add the alerts here to app HTML and drop that in, and then also get the config action mailer to development RB and paste them in. All right, so then we can create the device model. Let's call it user. Let's actually destroy this. So ready device user, and let's respell this. So I made a typo there. Raise g device user. So there we go. Raise db migrate, and now let's restart the server. We should be able now to register a new user. So let's go to users, sign up, and new user, test.com, password, sign up, and we get the notification, welcome, you have signed up successfully. Okay, so now let's associate the comment with the user. So again, inside DB schema, you see we have now here the table users, but we don't have an association to the comments. We have only an integer block ID for the blocks table. So let's do the exact same thing we did when we added the block ID to the comments. So raise g migration, add user ID to comments, and then user references. Hit enter. And inside the migrate folder, you see we have now add user ID to comments, add reference, comments, user foreign key true, which is exactly the same what is inside the add block ID. So comments block foreign key true. So as you can see, it's the exact same thing. And when we type in raise db migrate, you will see inside schema that we have now a user ID integer and also an index. So this is exactly the same we did before. We have now more or less an association. Well, however, we have to add the belong to. So let's go to comment RB. Here we have to belongs to a user. And inside user RB, we have to add has many, because a user can have many comments. So when we type in raise C comment last, and then C users or user, you see it's nil. so no user was associated with it. However, inside the database, you see we have our user ID, which is nil. Okay, so how do we add now the user ID when we create a new post? Now we could add some kind of logic inside the comments controller, get the current user and then assign it. But we can also just simply use the views comments form here and use the hidden field tag. So f hidden field. And here we simply get the user ID, and the value should be simple, the current user ID. Now, when I go back to the form here, exit and type in raise as and go to localhost 3000 and click on show and create a new blog post and click on add comment. Actually, there was a problem. Roll back and you see we have rendering no content. Now, we did nothing really wrong. The problem is that our params have only the permission to add comments, but we also want the ability to add the user ID. So when we add here the user ID, go to blocks 1 and post a new comment, you will see this is not working. Now if we go to the res console and get the latest comments, so c equals to comment.last and then c user, you will see that we have now test at test.com associated with the comment. Now what if we get the first blog post, so blog.first and then b users, we get an undefined method. However, sometimes it makes sense to have somehow the ability to display the users that are associated with the comments from, for example, the blocks controller. Now in this case, we can simply go to block.rb and type in here has many users, but through comments. Now, when we go back to the console and type in b users, you see it's still empty. So let's create another comment. Hit enter, and here b users. Or actually, it's user. So first off, let's restart the raise console and b.block.first, and then b users. And you see we get now the user ID, and the reason for that is because we have the has many through comments. So because the block has many comments, we can access now also the users because each comment has the users has a user associated to it. So this can be sometimes really convenient when you want to display something, some kind of data. However, inside comments controller, actually in the form, actually here in underscore where we display the comment, let's also display the user. So here we have to type in c comment user. And when we go back, you will see that we get now here the user association, the active record. So let's get the email, refresh, and you will see that we get now an error. And the reason for that is because undefined method email. Now we get this error because the other blog posts we have here, the first ones, don't have any user associated to it. So if we type in c comments.first, for example, you see the user ID is 0, so it's nil. Now there are two ways of doing this. We could add and update the attributes via console or reset the database, and I want to show you how to reset the database because it's oftentimes really helpful. So at some point when you messed around or when you are finished with your application, you want to reset the database so that everything is clean again. And you can do this in Raise by simply typing raise db reset. And this will do a lot in the background. it will also migrate everything again. So if I type in now race as and go back to localhost 3000, hit enter, you see we get again a complete empty application. So first block works fine, create block, and we have now undefined method ID. And this is because, of course, we have to create a user. So user sign up. Now again, we could add there some statement. If there is a user, get the ID. But we're fine for now. So become you have signed up successfully. Show. So this working again. First comment. Awesome blog post. And when we hit add comments, you see we get now the test at test.com. Now, of course, we could also create profiles. So in my last tutorial in the Follow Me app, where we built the Follow Me application, I show how to create profiles. So you could, for example, create here profiles and links to each user. So again, this is completely up to you. However, this is now working, so I can delete this. Everything is still fine. So we are basically finished with the application. This took a little while, but if you think about, we have developed a full working blog application. Of course, we could add some kind of admin and dashboard and things like that, but for now, the core functionality is working. We have blog posts and we can add comments, and each comment is associated with a blog post and has also a user associated to it. Alright, so we don't start the application because this tutorial was more about how to set up databases like that. I hope you enjoyed, and again, if you have any questions or want to know something specific, feel free to use the comment section. I will also do maybe in the future some kind of live sessions where we build some applications live. I'm not sure where to go there, but something like that maybe. Again, if you have any suggestions for future tutorials, if you want to see something specific, let me know. The next tutorial will be maybe not in Rails, but maybe in Django with Python. I'm not quite sure. However, you probably see the reason why Rails is still used to this day. We have just set up the CRUD application and the common functions in less than 1 hour. So if we would add some kind of styles here and maybe some admin panel, we would already have a full working application. So of course, there are a few things that we have to do, but all in all, it's already a full working application. So again, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching and see you maybe next time.